Welcome back to another episode of Combustion RC. On today's episode, we're going to finish out the Team GFRP 1/10 scale 2024 Assault Loose Dirt Sprint Car. Today, we're going to work on the shocks, which I've already got out of the bag and sorted. So if you haven't, pause the video and do so now. And we're going to finish out with the tank and whatever this front brace is. As far as the actual chassis and kit, we're going to finish that out. Except for the motor today, because I haven't got the motor in yet. It's still USPS. They're great. They're never slow. They're never behind. They're never delayed shipping for over a week. We're going to be using 50 weight, 40 weight, 27.5 weight, and 10 weight shock fluid. The left side of the car is going to be very light. The right side of the car is going to be much heavier. So that's going to be how we're going to do our shock fluid. Make sure you have that ready. If you're going to be running on tacky, maybe something a little bit heavier than that. Another go up 5 weight or so on the amounts that I just said. So like I said, it would be 50 in the right rear, 40 in the right front, 27.5 in the left rear, and 10 weight on the left front. So that's going to be how we're going to build these. Do take note that these springs are stamped on the bottom with the weight they are. The rear springs are 6 pounds. The front springs are 5 pounds. So you want to make sure that you have that set up correctly. And then these shocks are a little different than how I'm used to actually seeing, because they use normal rod ends on the shock shaft and then they snap on. That's new, something I haven't seen before, so we'll see how I feel about that once it's all said and done. But we're going to go ahead and get this going. So let's tilt you down and get moving on today's video. As always, have paper towel ready because we are going to be dealing with shock fluid. While we build our shocks, I'm going to use my 10 weight fluid here as my lubricant for the actual shock shafts and everything else. You do also want to have a set of shock pliers handy so that you have something that can grip that shock shaft without scratching it up while we're putting those rod ends on. It looks like the way these are set up, there are no spacers in between the O-rings. It is simply top hat, 2 O-rings, and then the bottom hat. I've never seen a design quite like that. I'm usually used to seeing something in between the O-rings. I feel like that would cause premature wear of the O-rings, but I could be wrong. It does say that on these blue O-rings to make sure that they are well lubricated beforehand. So we're just going to do that. So we got all of our blue O-rings here soaked in some shock fluid. There we go. It has this doing a little different than most kits do. Most kits have you build the bodies first, then insert the pistons through. This time they want you to build the piston, insert it through, and then slide everything up the shaft. So I'm going to do it the way that I'm used to building it because that is just the way that I'm used to doing it. So first we're going to build the pistons and then build the bodies and then put them together. So first things first, you need a shock shaft, a piston, one of these tiny little black O-rings, washers, which are going to go on here like so. Have the piston with the number side facing up so you can see what it is. And then these little bitty guys here are going to screw into the top. And these are a 1.5 bit. Oops, I grabbed it first and then I set it back down. Make sure they're not cross-threading like that one tried to do. And we're just going to go through and we're going to build all of these. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you know I get particular about shocks. They're one of the things that I tend to rebuild the most while building, because if there's any type of feel that I just don't like about it, I will redo them. I'll never put a shock that I'm not happy with on a vehicle. I've redone shocks as many as 5 times for the same shock, just to make sure that it's 100% the way I want it. It's good to see the sun coming out. Need to melt off all the ice we've had. Goodness gracious, that just made a mess. Moses sandals. Comment like for anybody who can name who that is. That's not my dad, because my dad watches that all the time. And I know that he will know it as soon as he hears it. All right, so now we go to our bodies. I said we're going to need our bottom hats, top hats. So first we're going to drop this in like so. Make sure that it sits flat down in there. Drop in 2 O-rings. This must be why they have you doing it the other way. I've never seen that. All right, so we're going to do what they said. We're going to put a piston through. Never seen one want to fight back this hard. So they tell you to do it like this, to slide everything down the piston and the shock shaft. Then they want you to take the tiny O-ring, I'm assuming. 4.5 millimeter. Yeah, that's this guy. And then stretch it around the base. Maybe you should do that before doing this part. Yeah. All right, so put those on before you put anything else on, because that's a pain in the butt. And then the bottom slides down on there and screws on. And that top hat fits in there, and you get a nice shock set there. Cool. Okay, so first things first, let's go through all these bodies and stretch this obscenely small O-ring. That should be a little bigger than that, I would think. Thinking about the gauges in my ears and the O-ring comparison size of what they are compared to the... I feel like this should be another millimeter bigger. Yeah, it's just ridiculous how tight that little O-ring is on there. Goodness. Finger. All right. So I guess we shall do what we did in the last one. Get that top hat settled in there. 1 O-ring. Go ahead and get all the pistons ready here. The bottom hat. And then the bottom collar. There we go. On to the next. Close to actual build time here, so I'm going to go ahead and get this kind of ready to go. So once the bodies are together, I want you to fill first. I'm going to go ahead and put these eyelets on all of these first, actually, just because I want to get it done and over with. Since the rod ends, it's going to be like dealing with the turnbuckle, and you know how I feel about turnbuckles. In the image, they're showing no threads showing, so we're going to cover all threads in all these. All right, So first one's first, since the 10's already open, let's do a front shock. Oops. Oh no. Why'd you let me forget that O-ring? All right, so make sure that's nice and snug on there. Go ahead and get your bleeder screw on your 1.5, like so. Push that shock up. Undo your pumps. And bleed. And wipe off the excess. There we go. Now on these, just like usual, these O-rings go inside the top edge of the collars. It's usually easier said than done. Or just pop them right in like that one just went with no problems at all. Oh, these are actually going in significantly easier than some of the last ones I've done. Maybe it's because they're slightly smaller O-rings. Maybe it's just because I hadn't said anything yet. Now this one doesn't want to go in. It's got a curly Q to it. There we go. All right, so those are ready to rock. So then we just give her a little drop of shock fluid there. These collars actually move very nicely. These are a well-machined shock, I will say that. I'm not sure where they get them from, if they make them themselves, but these are a well-machined shock. Hmm. All right, there's our left front. Now we're going to move on to our right front. This time, not putting in the O-ring first. There we go. And our cap. Perfect. A lot of excess on my fingers, so I'm just going to make sure it's on these shocks. There, now those bodies are ready for colors. Look at that. I'm really surprised they have these being made without limiters in them. That surprises me quite a bit, actually. Onto our left rear. Oh, shoot. You just saw me do that, didn't you? Oh, you didn't say nothing. Can't tell if there's air in there, if it's just because these shocks have a little bit bigger holes in the pistons than they do on my off-road car. No air. All right, and that's our left rear. Last but not least, our right rear. O-ring first. 50 weight fluid. This is associated shock fluid that came with my street stock kit. We grabbed 50 weight, right? Not 50,000 weight? Oops. It is. Just kidding. It's 50 weight. Just want to see if you guys are paying attention. Perfect. Kept pushing that in apparently. All right, there's our shocks all said and done. So now we can wipe down the shock fluid. Oh, that was almost bad. Wipe down the shock fluid mess. And let's see what's next. Actually, wash your hands first so they're not slimy. Okay, so we're back. Now we need to bring our kit over. And the long shock standoffs are going to be for our fronts. The shorts are for our rears. And then we need 2 of these on each end. So 3x8 screws, is that what that is? Yeah. Need for the rears, the nylon spacers for the bottom as well. 3x6s are for something else. Let's see that we need standoffs for the front. It looks like it's just the rear. Just the rear. All right, so first things first, we need to get our, let's do the front first actually. The front we're gonna have, looks like they want you to put right in the middle on the right side. I'm just setting that in there to mark it because I'm gonna put the left side on first. And then on the left side, it's the second row in, second one up or second one down, depending on how you look at it. So in your front shock tower, this is how you're going to see your screws. Those are the screw holes that they're pointing at in the manual. Okay. And these long standoffs go on here. Just like so. Probably should have put thread lock on that, but it is what it is. All right, and on the arm, it's second hole on the arm on the bottom. Just like we had them in at the beginning when we had to remove them because we had the wrong manual downloaded. And for the rear, it's top middle on both sides. That's simple enough. Okay, and on the arm, which is in step 56, it's a nylon spacer on, yeah, looks like the outer hole is what they're saying. Snug as a pug in an Ugg. Now see how nice and loose those are? Those wouldn't have been like that before. All right, so now we're using the 3x6s for the top of the shocks and then the snaps on the bottom, which again are the Gorilla Strength snaps that we've had to use before. Almost lost track of which side was what. Oopsie. Always make sure that your bleeder screws are facing out as well, so that if they loosen, you can tighten them down. If they're facing in, they tend to be in the wrong spot. Yeah, we're not getting those without the guys. See that flex in the arm? Why is that so tight? My goodness. Well, our front shocks are on. As straight up and down as they could be, just about. It's crazy. Apparently, you can actually set this one actually straight up and down. I think I'm going to put this right front on the bottom hole, or on the output hole. Give it a little bit more side bite. Okay. Same with the right rear. I'm going to move it to the inside hole. Inside top hole instead of middle. Left rear is fine. We're going to keep it middle. There we go. Like I said before, once they're on, I don't think we'll have a problem. It's just a matter of getting them on. It's just a pain in the butt. All right, so that's it for our shock bag, bag F. Now we're on to bag G, which doesn't have very much in it at all. Nice plate there. So all we need now is this on, then the motor to come in the mail. Oh, and the turnbuckles. That's right. So it looks like we're starting off with these two here. Doesn't matter which side goes where. No, it does not. Not threaded all the way through, so that doesn't matter. Perfect. All right, so we need a 3x8 countersunk. So that's this guy here. Countersunk. This says countersunk, but nothing on this is countersunk, so there's no reason to need the countersunk. And it also doesn't reach. All right, so this is what we're going to do. I'm going to use this 3x10 just because I want to be able to actually get this in here. And the countersunk is, there's no reason for it to need a countersunk because it's not divoted. I guess I could take my... Yeah, doesn't really matter. Okay, so now we need 3x8 flatheads. That's these guys here. And this. This is going to go on. Now see, this is when it needs the countersunk screws that it's talking about here. Okay. All right, so that goes on just like so. Remember, never go too hard because you're going into carbon fiber, so you don't want that to crack the carbon fiber. Because if you just zit, you're gonna get, you can, especially this milled out carbon fiber like this, it's thinner, you don't want to break it. So there's our tank mount. And then for the other front mount here, it looks like we need the 4mm screws. And the way this one works, it's like this one's gonna go like this and out. And then both of these carbon fiber shims on here. If I can get a hold of it. Like so. So that's going to be on there just like that. You see? And that is what is going to mount to the front of this chassis bulkhead here. So again, for going into aluminum, I know I didn't do it on the shock standoffs, but that was for a specific reason. For going into aluminum though, we do need to have thread lock on. That was a bit excessive, so we're going to have to get some of that off. Now remember, these are 2.5mm screws. These 4 by whatever these are, these 4 by 16 screws are a 2.5mm hex head. We'll just get one started here. Move over to the other one. And then you can give them a quick twist. And there we go. Right, now that is on the front. What do they call that piece actually? They call it the Assault CG mount. So I'm guessing that is for a cage mount. But that is the last step of this, except for installing the speed controller. All right, so it looks like we're going to mount our speed controller right here. And that'll get twisted down in there. We do just like that. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. And then we just got to wait for our motor to come in. So we're going to go ahead and get our speed controller mounted. All right, so then we just need to get our servo tape mounted. And twist down our servo wire. Awesome sauce. All right, just make sure we get the exact spacing correct. We're going to go ahead and drop the battery in here. You can also see that I need to move that back to the rear position as well. So I'm hitting my battery. Here we go. Oh, shoot. There we go. All right, we'll go ahead and move this servo back while we're here as well. Looking at this. All right, now steering rack still works fine, but it takes away the hitting of the battery there. All right, so now that that's mounted in place, let's go ahead and try to pull this down a little bit more. All right, we've got our Futaba R204 GFE receiver here. I'll go ahead and get that mounted. So once we get our links, we'll be good. All right, so next time we will install the motor and the steering turnbuckle links that we're missing right now, once those come in the mail, and the GFRP Assault 2024 Sprint car will be complete. Right now we have it as set, so it is pretty well ready to go. I can't wait to get this thing on the track and see how it does. I am putting a 4.5 turn motor in it, so it's going to be a lightning bolt to say the least. I do have a fan coming for it because I know it's going to need the fan. I'm putting the Sticky Kicks V2 fan on the ESC, probably on the motor as well, but definitely on the ESC. And the yeah, got a whole pile of extra hardware, so that's kind of awesome that we get a bunch of extra hardware. We're going to save that and leave it out for now because I do know that we're going to need that once the links come in because we still need to screw these through the steering blocks. They snap onto the steering rack and then screw through the steering block. So we know we need to do that, so we can just leave that like it is for now, and then we can just get everything soldered up in the next go. That's it for today. Until next time, keep the rubber side down, the shiny side up, and remember to stay in the groove.